Hey everybody, welcome to the Art of the Deals. I am Brother Kenneth, and this episode I'm going to talk about at least part one of when you have to deal with a child who may be having night terrors. And this includes someone who is living in a household where there is oppression, possession, and infestation and so forth, that they're unwilling participants in the events. And the true victims are the children, because what the adults have done prior to the new family moving into the house or after, whatever the timeline was, the parents, the owners of the previous house and so forth, an adult had done it typically. And I'm not talking about excluding teenagers, by the way. We're talking about young children. I was one of them once, and it wasn't what the adults did so much of my parents. My parents were good Catholics, but that's another story. We have basically a list in the back of my first book, The Catholic Demonologist's Handbook, which I wrote in 2007 and published in 2010. And it was put in there later because of a question prompt of that, so I put it in the back of the book, appendices or something. The thing is we got to think of this child's psychological mindset. They're a fragile mindset, which can easily get PTSD from early experiences as a child, just as divorce, and all the parents, you think your kids are going to blow over fine from divorce, and that's traumatizing. You have no idea because they don't express themselves like adults. You don't know what they're locking up and bottling up. So think twice and then don't get a divorce. Okay, so children who deal with these things at night, first off, these are in no particular order. I actually have something here and trying to be thorough so I don't have to use my memory and then look over my shoulder. This is a, we'll just say like a little trifold, it's not a brochure, but a guide for children who see ghosts, basically for the adults to read through it and follow these to the letter. Luckily, we don't have to give them out as much, but the fact is that we do in some cases. Means it's a problem and it should be addressed, because these are things that adults don't think about. Okay, I'm not going to do these in any particular order. There's not really any order to this at all. So number one would be teach your child to bless themselves with the holy water. I don't care what denomination you are. You have no excuse. Go to your local Catholic church and get some holy water. Now, you don't have to be Catholic to get it or to use it. Just a baptized Christian. You can use it if you're not, but the reality is being in the new covenant is going to pack more of a punch on these things against evil spirits. So what you can do also is bless them before they go to sleep. The parent, not the older sister or older brother. So parents, get off your bottoms and go in there and tuck your kid in and bless their forehead, even when they're teenagers, 17, 18. I don't care. Do it. It's going to really make a big difference over time. A lot of times the devil works in a long period, a long stretch of time. Such an example of someone was cursed by their father when they were a kid. Okay, so getting back to it, so blessing their forehead, that's number one, and you can call it number 1B, would be to teach them how to bless themselves. So that's one of the things. It's like arming them so that they don't have to be trapped in terror. And I'm talking from my own experiences, too, as a kid. It's like, our parents didn't know this stuff. And so that's why we're here, to pass it on to you, some of our knowledge. Is that you should make it available instead of just saying, oh, it's just a dream, go back to sleep, or it's just a night terror, some psychological thing. And on the second one, make yourself available as a parent. Don't lock your bedroom door. Don't give strict rules to where they cannot wake you up no matter what. You might have a burglar in the house, or if they hear something outside, but these things need to be aware. Your kids will have ears and eyes when you don't, and you're sleeping from your hard day work, and you're sleeping soundly. Well, you don't want to forget your kids either. And not to mention, there had been break-ins where they actually stole the kid because that was the target. And they wake up and the kid's not in their bed, not anywhere in the house, and the kid didn't run away, too young, and there was no purpose for them to. So be aware that there might be problems lurking beneath the surface that you don't know about, evil people or evil spirits for that matter. If your kid comes in there, make sure that you're accessible to your kids, and then have a plan to what to do if they wake you up. Do you go in there and you look under the bed for monsters or in the closet? I'm not really sure if that's a good idea to play 100%. Depends on how old they are, because when they're younger they can't deal with it, and you don't want the fear. We want to try to get the fear down, because all it does is fuel demons. Not that they need fuel, it excites them. It gets them worked up. I think it's going to help them to reassure them. Like there's something under your bed. You can look under the bed. and all of that, if they mention a specific area. But other than that, you might have to stay with them until they fully get awake, and calm them down and get them to pray with you. At some point or another, it is dangerous to have the kid be told that there's no monsters, no demons. And let me explain this first, because they don't know to do something. You have to. It's walking on eggshells. So anyway, the steps at night, or just trying to keep this delicate balance of not making the child feel like they are real, because they'll never be able to sleep again if they're 100% sure they're real. I think it was a Stephen King movie. What was it, Cujo? They gave the kids something called the Monster Prayers or whatever, and it was just some sort of poem, kind of poetic thing with rhymes, haiku, who knows. And I had no deliverance prayers in there, and no prayers of protection like a guardian angel prayer is. My mom and dad gave me a St. Benedict medal when I was very young. And it's funny, it was almost like as if just to say, well, if it is something, it's evil. You know, you got this, but it never said what it was for. The idea is that basically you want to give them as much as you can without actually telling them why. And so they don't focus on that it's real and I have to deal with it. But you just tell them like an emergency, like if there's a fire, what you do, you know, like when you have that kind of emergency. The problem is usually, in a lot of cases, there's only one kid who's being bothered by it, if you have 5 or so, or the whole family. It's not usually just, one, maybe 1 or 2 people. And then as stages grow later on, the whole family eventually will notice and experience. Not to mention, adults blow off a lot of stuff that kids notice. But then again, kids do too. Kids will blow off stuff because they don't know that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's not natural. If it doesn't scare them, they may totally blow it off. So, I mean, you get it on both adults and kids. That adults can be like kids and how naive they are as well. If the child is younger, that you don't want them to worry about monsters and demons and stuff. So it's like you're going to have to customize the prayers and call them spirits or something like. But the reality is the kids would say, just give them a prayer that doesn't specifically use deliverance. It's like, like doing a Hail Mary. Have them do the Hail Mary. Jesus' name's in there. They hate the Blessed Mother and her purity, obedience, and humility. So you can have the kids say the Hail Mary repeatedly and start to say it aloud. They hate it. And you can pray for them, and you can bless their room and bless your house to run it completely out of house, or they'll just stand in the doorway and mess with them. You've heard about that. They call them the Watchers. There's, forget this stupid neo-pagan information about demons out there. There's no Watchers. They're all tempting and doing no good when they're there. They're not just sitting there going, oh, if I only could have been a human, I might have had a child like that. Okay, so don't be stupid. Quit following paranormal shows for your information and blogs or whatever else they got online. We're talking the reality of things. The other thing is, if you're diagnosing as a parent, you may notice it that it may happen shortly after they fall asleep. Could be 10 o'clock. It's still night. You're not going to see the normal pattern with kids that you do. If you get the 2 to 4 a.m. wake-ups, don't expect little Johnny or little Beth or somebody to come in there about 2, 3 o'clock. It could be at midnight. It could be 20 minutes after they fall asleep. It could be, 10 o'clock. Could be 9 o'clock. Depends on what time they go to bed. There does seem to be a common denominator that it's dark in her room, and it doesn't necessarily have to be nighttime outside. If their curtains are closed and it's made to dark. But it is more common after actually the sun goes down, if you want to note that one in there, as opposed to it being hovering around 3 a.m. for children. Some of the other things to do, and some of these are preventions and, things to look for, is that you can't teach them generic prayers to get them prayed up. I recommend a family rosary. Protestants need to realize that you can do all of these things. You just can't do a few things in the church. Marriage, you can't get married in a church. You can't go and get absolution and confession, although you can talk about your sins to a priest. Tell them you're a Protestant or you're not Catholic yet, and they'll give you advice. And you can say an act of contrition there, which is a prayer that's basically repenting and then asking God for forgiveness and help. And the other thing you can't do is you can't receive communion, but you can attend a mass, you can go to the Blessed Sacrament, you can use the sacramentals. If you're baptized, these things will have a certain potency. Okay, we're going to do a video on that one at another time as well. But just remember that your kids must be baptized when they're going through this. Baptized to whatever denomination you are. We always suggest to go to the Roman Catholic Church and talk to a priest about becoming Catholic to enjoy the full benefits of the Christian faith. And the other thing to bring up here is also that some physical things in the environment, the room, make sure the room stays clean. Demons love messy rooms. They love chaos. And what also adds to this, too, you got to consider, is that when children are sleeping, do you remember the Poltergeist movie that Steven Spielberg did back in the 80s? And the child looked over and there's this creepy clown. I don't know who bought that for him, looking at you in the dark. He's got a jacket and he throws it on top of there, and it's got a picture of Chewbacca on the back doing his little roar thing. And I thought that was kind of funny. It's like swap one for the other. Something that looks creepy in the dark, monstrous. Even this Chewbacca, the lovable character, he still kind of looks Bigfoot, monstrous looking. But that's all these little things you got to pay attention to. What will scare them at night. My collie even got spooked when I was a kid when I had this Ernie puppet, Ernie from Sesame Street. It was a Muppet. It actually worked. And I had Cookie Monster and some. I always loved puppets. And the dog got a hold of it at some point and actually ripped all the clothes off, this in the arm. Well, I had the head on top of my TV for a while. Just the head. I remember one day the collie went in the bedroom, when I was getting tucked in, and he looked up, with his big nose up at the eyeballs up there, look at the Ernie thing, and then went like this, and then started barking at it for whatever reason. I'm not going to put any spin on it or anything like that. But what was the point is that spooked the collie, We got to watch for that environment. The other thing is black shirts, black robes, those type of things. What happens when you're in an infestation or whatever is that black shadow things creep around your room and you catch them. And it's just like like in the movies and something. Sometimes you're like, oh, thank God it was just a shadow of that object there. And then you look again and then that shadow's gone. It wasn't natural. And you'll catch them creeping at the corner of your eye. You'll catch them fleeting into the closet when you turn the light on or under your bed. And those type of things. So your child is going to be adverted to black shirts because they'll see the black creeping around it, like it's trying to be discreet, like some stealth video game where you got to hide in the shadows, and then you creep over to the next spot where the shadows are, like special forces, or what's kind of what they are, creeping around a kid's room, maybe just to more try to draw some negative energy in the form of fear and anxiety. Just like in Monsters, Inc., demons don't feed on that stuff, we'll just say, but they're drawn to it because they know that any kind of negative emotion is something for them to go and capitalize on. But I do think they enjoy that negative energy coming off of fear and anger and all the above, and they look to promote it, and they look to add to it, they look to enhance it, and whatever they can do to capitalize on the situation. When we're talking about the holy water, keep holy water by their bed. Since holy water gets lost easy in a kid's room, maybe you can take one where you can actually tie a string around it, and then you can tie the other one to their bedpost, right up there by their head, not at the other end. That's what don't want to get into that, but that's kind of a personal experience there. So you can get it and open the bottle spout on it and put some on their finger. But this is another one of those things, it's like you don't teach them to ignore, because what they ignore, maybe it'll go away, is a dangerous notion for adults or anybody that's dealing with demonic. Something should be done, but the parents need to step up and not make the kid take the burden on himself of doing deliverance prayers. You don't teach them deliverance prayers. Like I said, he does the Hail Mary and he does the sign of the cross. There's a story about a young rabbi from some time ago who heard some demonic noises when he was up late one night in a temple, and then when he went to go seek what it was, he saw that in the front of the church there was a full-blown demonic spirit with the horns and the whole 9 yards, and he couldn't think of a prayer. He couldn't even think of his name. His mind drew a blank. But by God's grace, he remembered suddenly, like what the Christians do, with the sign of the cross. And he did it, and the demon howled, and it disappeared. Something to think about. The sign of the cross in itself, and they bless themselves at night when they become scared. And it can help ease your fear. You can tell the children, it'll help ease your fear, little Johnny. Bless yourself with holy water 3 times. Say Hail Mary, bless yourself. Say a Hail Mary, bless yourself. Say a Hail Mary, bless yourself. Do that 3 times in honor of the Trinity is basically what it is. And a lot of people don't know how. It's bad enough when you have your own imagination, but imagine being under your white sheets and you can't think of a prayer. You don't know what to do, and you're hiding under there because you feel like something is in your room, and then you see the shadows move, which is impossible. If you're holding it completely still, like one time it's like, Mom? And you pull the covers off and there's nothing there. It looked just like a person leaning over the bed, like that. That kind of stuff is just unnerving. Okay, here's a big mistake. Because of the movies like The Sixth Sense, some parents are considering, my child's gifted. You remember that kid who was terrified by a ghost in there? You remember how it was treated like it's a gift? Eventually he had some guy, some creepy cop from some voodoo thing, whatever, was like first big giant red flag right there, But even if someone is going to be gullible enough to believe that a curse is actually a blessing and a gift, but some have it from birth, like Padre Pio. But so don't confuse yourself with a saint just because you think you've had this gift your whole life. This is very important, and it's another video in itself, is that don't consider it a gift, consider it a curse. You should be put through the process of making sure that all family curses and so forth have been removed that might have been there. We'll just call them demonic effect, because when we call it generational curses or something like that, I think that it doesn't jive with the catechism, so it's got to be explained. Words can mess everybody up. Okay, for that, this is where the parents can't assume my child's gifted like the kid on TV or the movie screen, and that you're just going to ignore it and you're going to teach it like it's some sort of like psychological, something other than that. You're going to teach it like it's something other than an infestation, and like they're seeing other things people can't, and they're everywhere, that kind of thing. And don't forget, if they wake you up in the middle of the night and they talk about terror, don't rule out the option for them to sleep in bed with you. And I don't care, it's you're sleeping at night. It's not like your marital bed, so to speak, can't have an intruder every once in a while. It's kind of common. My parents let me do that too. Sometimes, when kids are scared of lightning storms, why let them be in there all by themselves? I don't think that helps their security or makes them man up, so to speak. You're dealing with children, not Marines, okay? So be light on these kids, all right? Okay, you should say prayers for your children every day and every night regardless. Like the hedge prayer protection, there's one specific for your children. It's on our website. Prayer for your children. If you know they're having a problem, you're going to have to say a little bit more than that. And you should probably do breaking curses prayers on behalf of your children and family. You don't know if you have a Freemason or somebody practicing a cult in your family line, maternal or paternal. Getting back to one of the earlier things about ignoring it and teaching the children prayers, you're not teaching them prayers that indicate that there is a monster there. For example, you're going to use prayers that are efficacious just because of the words said in there that repels the demons. Jesus' name is in the Hail Mary, for example. But you should teach them to have faith, not fear. That if there, that don't say if there was a monster. You tell them that always have faith. If you're afraid of anything, such as stuff you can't see, then teach them how to be not fearful but faithful. Teach them not to have fear but faith. Faith in God. And if you want to make them aware of a presence, tell them about their guardian angels so that they feel like there is something actually more powerful than parents in their room that they can ask for intercession from, and that will protect them like a hired bodyguard that makes sure that they know how angelic and perfect this angel is, so that it's not going to appear like in the movies, where it's the tooth fairy is actually some old hag and stuff like that, so they don't confuse the nature of God's angels with the fallen angels. If the night terrors, so to speak, continue, I would consider switching their room temporarily just to see how that works, and then maybe what it does there. Is it localized? You have to also consider some of the elements we look into on all cases, such as where did the bed come from? People will have night terrors only sleeping in that one bed, and it turns out that the bed was there when they moved in, and it was too nice a one to dump. And it's something along that line. Well, you got to figure, you understand why they left the bed there. That a bed can be the focal point for incubus and succubus attacks for an adult. Then you're having a kid sleep in there. They're not going to advance to those types of moves. But I tell you what, it still has that evil presence that was attached and located to the bed. So blessing the bed, in my opinion, can help. But it's going to be ongoing because that bed's tainted, and it should be disposed of and gotten rid of. But you can narrow it down, like I said, be practical about it. If they move out of that room and they're out of there a month and nothing's happened, then you need to revisit the room and find out what's in there. There might, and this is investigation stuff, something that will indicate what it is that's in that room that's not in another. Now remember, when you get a house, someone could have committed suicide and other atrocities in there who used to live in the room before your kid. They could have been sexually molested in there to other kids from another family and that sort of thing. And so that room almost has to be exercised by a priest in itself, not necessarily with a full exorcism or something beyond a minor rite, but it's going to have to be treated special because it's been tainted by evil. But it's something to consider on this mystery. And the one case we bring up a lot is, well, it's not the one case in the world, it's one case we know, is that when there was a Ouija board on top of a shelf, and the door was creaking open every night, well, almost every night, and then they would see a shadowy silhouette in the doorway, and they would get scared, and it would just find its way to creak open no matter what, somehow reopen every night, even when it was checked by the parents before they went to bed, because the child was complaining about it. And so he's okay as long as the closet door is shut for the most part, but the parents should not have made him go sleep in that room several times. And they did find it after they went looking through the closet. You know, when we recommend things, we say go look for things that are specific to that area where the experience is happening over and over. Well, lo and behold, they didn't see it at first. They took everything out of the closet, and then when they were looking on a stool, they saw that there was a board up there. It was a piece of masonite. Guess what? Flip it over, it's an Ouija board. They got rid of the Ouija board, they chucked it in the trash, don't burn them. And then after that, the room was inhabitable. On the little short side of this stuff, the older brother tried it out. He had the same thing happen. Then they left the room vacant for a while. The brother slept in other rooms. And then their aunt came over, and they basically turned into a guest room when they had their first guest over. The aunt experiences it the first night. That wasn't until this Ouija board got discovered, until they actually had that investigated further. So you see how this stuff can work that way? It didn't haunt the whole entire house. You give it time, it will. If you get people to do things in the house as a demonic who's been given this playground by having the presence of that board in the house. Child should never believe that it's grandma just because he says it looks like grandma. We don't even know where grandma is. If she passed away, it was what is assumed. Don't assume grandma's not in hell now working for demons trying to bring you down, because they do that. They have no free will of their own in the afterlife, and demons that they appeased in life by some way or somehow will be ordering you to haunt those that you loved in life. Doesn't matter anymore. Your free will does not exist. You're being forced to. This happens when you move into a house that the deceased relative used to live in, and they already have a legal right domain there, even though they're deceased, and all contracts you would think are broken. That's why you should always have a house blessed before you move in, for that same reason, to basically kind of close these, I'm not going to say contracts. I don't know why. I mean, because people could come up with some sort of legal right kind of thing and say, well, he's dead, it's over. You know, that these spirits can be used not just as a manipulation tool to give an idea that there's a ghost there, so you go do stupid things like call psychic mediums. It says it's your dead relative, and a great many of these cases end up being a problem because they were ill-advised by a psychic medium. Even the famous Annabelle case with the Raggedy Ann doll, 2 nurses gave permission for a spirit that says itself was the spirit of a little girl who used to play in a property. They gave an invitation to move into the doll because they thought it was cute. Little girl wants to hang out with us, So don't buy into the dead relatives thing. If you see grandma as a Catholic, start saying purgatory prayers. There's a specific prayer that we have in the back of the book and on the website that's said for several days, I think 7 days, and one for different prayer for each day that should clear purgatory ghosts. You got the point. If they made themselves known by God's grace, God's blessing upon them, sometimes all I need is one bit of charity, so that it can be help them move on. Okay, so we're going to wrap that one up, although there can be other things that can be added. I don't know if unless I can accumulate another one, if I'll be doing a second topic on this. I think it's pretty thorough. Use your common sense. All of the advice we give is sound. So I just want to tell you, God bless everybody, and have a good day or a good night, whichever it be. And I am Brother Kenneth for the Art of the Deals. See you next time, or rather you'll see me. God bless.